me and grab a spot at the bar.
So, you wish to prick up your ears and receive the tale of Scuba?
If you're sharing stories, we'll listen.
Then you be a fool, my lad. A sordid tale will bring you nothing but grief and woe.
Okay, well, if you're not sharing stories, we'll...
Oh, fine, I'll tell you. At your own insistence, and at your own peril. My story begins in a small village on the frozen banks of Sakavita, my home world. Nights black as quillfish in it. Winters so cold, a stern look can turn you to glass.
Doesn't sound like the easiest place to grow up.
Difficult, aye. From the moment your mother's milk froze on your tongue to the moment you found it upon frozen streets. You see, the fishes, they had the right of it. They dwelt far below the ice, where warm currents danced like ribbons in the wind. To fish so scarce a quarry, on account of the great fish famine, well, it's nae a mild undertaking. But for all the belly-aching now, there's a peaceful enough life for a wee Sakavian with an instinct for the road.
So you discovered your talent early.
Such a talent was I, that as a lad, nae hardly sported my first prickly chin hair, I was given an audience with Undan. But that be a tale for another time. Where were we? Ah, yes. By virtue of my prodigious fishing talents, I was taken to see the mysterious one they call Undan. I can see it still. Wee Scuba, ushered into yon black-mouthed cave. I could barely make out the figure, glinting with moonlight. I scrubbed my eyes, like a old tar scrubbing the deck. And there she was, a vast creature. Great tentacles blooming from her blubber, like cables gorging on a fuel tank. One of the tentacles twitched into the air, just over my head, and then, wham! Right on the noggin, so I'm told. I staggered out the cave like a lover first acquainted with the deck. But something else happened. I think, when that fell tentacle struck me, Undan took something straight out to me brain and put something else in.
She put something in your brain?
Aye, boy. The subtle art of catching a fish. The art of focus. And in the dark, with nothing but the bristles on your chin for company, that focus is special. From that day forward, when I plunged my line into the frigid waters, it would emerge with a fish. 3 times out of 7.
That's less than half.
My village told me that I'd be the one to save them from the great fish famine. Little did I know that the grapnel was soon to arrive on our shores.
Gonna assume that's a bad thing.
Perhaps, lad. And perhaps not. But that'll be a story for another time. The tale continues. When we last spoke, I warned of the grapnel's arrival. That great ship came descending on us like an anchor cutting the deep. Ne'er a more fearsome ship did you clamp eye on. She was sharp, like a fish, like the nose of a bony fish. She had 3 great claws. Aye, the landing gear. But when her great jaws parted, aye, the loading ramp. Will you hush and let Scuba tell the story? Her great jaws parted, disgorging her dread crew. A more vile pack of fisherfolk you never did see. And led by the vilest of them all, Captain Wanyek Wet, the bearded, bezel-less bat that he intended to fish in our waters. Trophy hunters they were, in search of the most rare catches. Well, we Sakavians refused. We had the great famine to contend with, see? Every fish was precious. And the ferocious captain didn't care for our troubles. With a belch, he produced from his creel a mighty harpoon. Wait, cried wee Scuba, hopping off of his rock. I know these waters like the taste of my own tongue. There'll be few fish beneath yon ice. But, continued I, if you take me with you, and if you leave my village be, I could show you how to coax the rarest of fishes onto your line. Aye. The dread captain stroked his briny beard. After a long moment, he held out his hand and grinned most terribly. Lad, said he, you be a mock. I'll be requiring another for me crew, one who knows the curve of the sea. Oh, Cal, if I could only go back to that moment when I shook Captain Wet's rigid hand. If only I'd never stepped off my wee rock. But my encounter with Undan had given me a taste for the unknown. I couldn't resist the call of adventure, and I had to save my people. So, I left with the grapnel, thinking the business done. I would be a fisher for Captain Whit. Of course, my adventure had only begun. For just when the grapnel hit orbit...
More trouble, I take it?
Ah, but I've havered on long enough. Come back another time and I'll tell you more. So, you wish to hear of a time on the grapnel with the crew of the dread Captain Wanyak Wed?
Let's hear it.
Aye. My tenure began with quite a bump. The moment the grapnel hit orbit, her klaxons began to sing. A barrack ship full of lawful types swam out to the stars and hailed us. What be the meaning of this? Growled our captain. We're simple fisherfolk. Your transponder codes tell a different tale, came the reply. You be standing on stolen property, you do. Ah, you've rightful caught us, said the captain. Come on aboard, and I'll surrender what was stolen. But scarcely had the lubbers set foot on the deck of the grapnel, when wham! The captain's harpoon skewered them like a quailfish on a spit. Now you can't do that when you're running line, can you? Said the captain to me, grinning in his foulsome way. I'm sorry to say that I picked up the harpoon that black day. For years, I did not toss a fish back into the sea when I caught her. Well, that is until... blubbered you to death. I'll continue my tale soon, lad. Aye, so we returned to my time on the grapnel. Against the protestations of my heart, I forsook the rod and line for the harpoon. For years, we trawled the outer rim, spearing every fish that happened across our path. Talented as I was, I speared more fish than the rest of the crew, put together. Fool as I was, I didn't have the wisdom to be ashamed. The dread Captain Wanyak Wet took notice. He showered me in brevets, gave me the best of catches, and scarcely a year after I left Sakavitar, I became his first mate. Shortly after my promotion, we were on our way to Manan to sell the carcass of a gooberfish. But wham! Just as we dove out of hyperspace and the great ocean world streaked into view, so did she. The most glorious creature I'd ever beheld. A whale of marvelous proportion. But swimming through Manan's orbit like it was nothing but an easterly current back home. I was transfixed.
No kidding. How close did you get?
Funny you should ask. I didn't have long to set my eyes abulge before he crashed headlong into her. The grapnel bounced off her like chum off flotsam. We plummeted down to the ocean, sundering the grapnel on the sea floor, where a gang of pirate quarren were holed up. The filthy Zephyrs. We swam out to the ribbon hull and found ourselves surrounded by quarren, demanding all manner of things, including our bounty of fish. So, away we swam, Captain White, the crew, and myself. But, blind as we were at such depth, we shortly ran into a dead end, finding ourselves surrounded by quarren. Find me again, and I'll continue the tale.
So, Scuba, Whatever happened with the pirates?
So there we were, 4 quarren, armed with spears, each way a mind to make a mantelpiece of my wee rubbery head. I looked over to me captain, and he stared right back, waving his arms like a goober fish in heat, at the harpoon I held in my hand. Oh, for a black instant, I considered nailing those pirate quarren to the rocks with my harpoon. But something stopped me from pulling the trigger. Perhaps it was the sparkle that caught my eye. The sparkle of a passing glumbering eel. What would those pirates say to a whole school of glumbering eels? A crackle and a sparkle as they be, thought I. So I opened my wee mouth and emitted the mating call of the eel.
You speak eel?
Aye, but I forgot to turn on me comm. We Scriver alone heard the cry. But that demented expression put such a fright on the quarren that it dropped the blasters. By the time they'd come to the senses, we were swimming away as fast as our flippers could carry us. It was only later, as we fled aboard the Zephyr's schooner, that I realized how close the real danger was. But I shall continue my tale next time. Where did we end? Ah, yes. The monstrous Captain Wet, his crew and myself fled aboard the pirate schooner of the filthy Zephyrs. Well, fast as the morning thaw, I could tell something was off. Wanyik, he wouldn't look me in the eye. Oh, what a dreadful stench was a brewing his rotten beard. An augur of fate most ill. Wanyik took the helm, and with landing claws away we flew to deep space, putting a few lifetimes between us and those pirates. We found ourselves afield of the Parlimean trade route. As soon as the captain took his hand off the yoke, he put it on his harpoon and gave me a look, like a half-starved cougar cat eyeing sprat. Scorver, snarled the vile captain, you've gone as soft as an oyster's navel. If I couldn't trust you to spear a quarren with your blaster in your mouth, I couldn't trust you to skewer the great goober fish. Aye, my hesitance to pull the trigger had me undone. In spite of my most rabid pleas, the captain jettisoned wee Scuba in an escape pod. The last thing I saw was his dread smile, crooked like a beeman's backbone. And so, my time aboard the grapnel met a briny end. Sitting alone in a pod, in deep space, with nothing but a tank of old cod and gash. I'll tell you more later, lad. The despair. Ugh, the stench. It's enough to set my stomach a churn to this very day.
So, Scuba, back to your story. Were you actually marooned in deep space by Captain Wet?
Aye, lad. There I sat, tummy a-rumble, gazing out at the void. My somber reflection staring back from the porthole. Was it hours? Years? Neither would faze me. But I do recall this. After a term most interminable, there she was, like a bowsprit cutting through a crest. The great space whale, still sporting the grapnel's imprint on her side, emerged from a parted void. Aye, even now it brings the salt to my eyes. Her great blubbery undulations tossed me pod through the stars like a goose-winged skiff. The stars swirled about like 100,000 fishes until suddenly I saw a planet below. There my pod crashed, and there I was rescued by kindly locals. I had been saved by this marvelous creature from the depth of space. I tried searching for her. Alas, to no avail. She eluded me for years before I packed my satchel and headed home for Sakavi Tar. Most didn't believe what I'd seen. They say she was not but the terminal spasm of a starving salt's brain. But I know what I saw, lad. I know what I saw. Of course, when I returned home, things were not as I remembered them. But that be a tale for another time. So, after years of searching for the great whale, I returned home to the frozen shores of Zakavitar, where my tale began. And this world on which I was weaned and warmed seemed but a moon to me careworn eyes. So small. I foot slogged my way back to Undun's cave, but I found it empty, and somehow colder than I remembered. You know, lad, sometimes the truth brings peace, and sometimes it brings sadness. The fish is nae always what you thought it'd be when it bit the line. I dragged myself out of that cave and back to my village. And what I discovered next sent a spar through me thrice-pickled belly. All me kith and kin, old and bairn, ravaged by famine and cold. For none other than Captain Wanyek Wet had been fishing in their waters, sparing what few fish remained and taking them off-world. And so it was that I found myself once again in search of the dread captain and his crew. Not just for my own justice, but to liberate my very home. When we next speak, I'll tell you what became of my crusade. Aye, our story nears its end. I discovered that Captain Whet was plundering my very home seas for exotic fish. And in the process, starving the old tars who raised me from a wee yoke. I spent many months in search of them. At long last, I discovered them on the salted shores of the third moon of Antine. I hied to Antine and tracked me foe to the Caracas Trench, a fissure sliced clean through the moon's heart. There, amongst the brine and black, I found him. Wanyek Whet and his vile crew, surrounded by glumbering eels, spearing them with their harpoons. "Captain," I cried, "you've broken your promise never to harvest the seas of Zakavitar." And I said, "Your command be forfeit if you dinna forswear my home waters." Oh, I'll scarce forget the snarl he issued as he turned to me, slow as a frozen reef, regarding me after years of thinking me dead. "This," he growled, "is why you dinna toss the fish back into the sea." Before I could shake my flippers, the barb of his harpoon spun through the deep, and its hook pierced me in the chest. My juices filled the water, and as my vision grew dark, I espied Wanyek, smiling sharp as a fang.
That's horrible, Scuva.
I told you, lad, that mine be a dark tale. I'll tell you more when next we meet. So there I was, deep in the Caracas Trench, Wanyek's harpoon drilled through me paunch, watching the lights fade from my own eyes. The dread captain peeled his whiskers from his teeth and grinned a most ghastly grin. When suddenly, I saw the glumbering eels a-swirl. It seemed that, in the midst of my distraction, they'd taken flight. It dawned on me. I recalled to me mind the great meeting call of the eels, my last hope. So, rousing my final gasp of air, I sounded their shrill cry.
What happened?
Well, lad, I'll tell ye. The eels swarmed in an electric blaze. The dread crew scattered, and Wanyek, that damned Wanyek, that dread captain, was cooked like an evening quillfish. As the eels smote him into the deep, I felt consciousness run out to my ears. Darkness fell upon me. When I awoke, well, find me again, and I'll conclude my tale. When I awoke from my last duel with Wanyek, it was on the deck of a fishing schooner. It seemed my speared carcass had bogged to the surface and been caught by a local fisher.
What about Captain Wet? Did he survive?
If that sack of seared slime yet plagues the galaxy, I've nae heard stem the stern of him, nor of his crew. Perhaps more importantly, the ordeal awoke me to the truth. I had no desire to spear fish, nor fisher. I had no desire to cross harpoons with dread captains, or to skewer the deadliest fish. In the hurly-burly of it all, I lost sight of myself. The fisherwoman who caught me, she knew of a nearby world with a great multitude of fishes. Kobo. So to Kobo did I go. And since, I've realized why I like to fish.
Why's that?
Because I like fish, Cal. I like shiny fish. I like big fish and small fish. I like fish with eyes splayed wide and fish with eyes pointed straight. I even like fish with no eyes at all. And I like seeing the face on lovers like you when they realize just how many kinds of fish there are in this galaxy. Well, that be my tale, Cal. Perhaps it was no as gloomy as I kid.
You went through a lot. I'm glad you're okay, Scuba.
Oh, thank you, lad.
Thank you. You've given me a lot to think about.
Aye, lad. Go ahead and ponder. But don't ponder your years down the river. There's always another fish. Cal, lad.
Hey, Scuba. How's the water?
Fine. I just wanted to thank you for lending me your tank. Plenty more space for plenty more fishes, though. Let's keep them all spinning, eh?
It true then? Nicked that droid back from the raiders, did you?
I don't think we met. One moment.
Talk later, hmm?
Let's stop for a moment.
Hey, Cal.
See
Good
you
to
around,
see you.
Cal.
Cal, I've got connections to some Imperial channels. Seems like Kobo is on the Empire's agenda now.
I was afraid of that.
It certainly won't be good for business.
Pardon me.
Do you see this one? Beat me to the mast. The tank's over halfway full.
I hope they all get along.
Aye, but this is no the time for self-congratulation, laddie. There's still leagues of bubbles left for more fishes. Let the hunt continue.
Small crowd today.
I don't think they're coming back.
If the sound's alive, they'll come. They always do. It just takes them a little while to find their way. That's all.
What's your academy like?
Oh, amazing. Every building is partially suspended with repulsors. The campus looks like it's floating over the ground. It's magical.
It sounds like a hard place to leave behind.
It was, but things were changing. Looking down, you used to see nothing but nature. The ground is covered in ferrocrete now. all part of an Imperial control zone.
So what'd you do before you came here?
I used to perform in a medicine show. I was required to dress in garish outfits and read fortunes, while others would scam the audience.
That sounds a little demeaning.
Yes, but the experiences we carry always have a use, Sojourner. When I arrived on Kobo, I noticed a charlatan trying to swindle someone with fool's priorite.
How'd you know?
He wore long sleeves in the heat.
Sleight of hand, huh? I saw a merchant on Corellia do that.
An old trick. Well, I stopped the sale, and Doma has been grateful ever since.
And the swindler?
Tried the trick on the raiders, so I hear, and sealed his fate.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm okay. You?
Guess I'm fine too.
It's all right if you're not.
Hey, don't get mushy on me. Do I miss Grok? Well, sure I do. I mean, you know what hurts the worst? The old man was strong, sharp. Grumpy enough to curdle clear water, too. Beneath all of that, he actually believed that a couple of nobodies like us could strike it rich. Too many skeptics and cynics out there, Cal. You find a believer, you hold on tight.
I hear you.
Cal, the Empire's set its sights on Kobo, and everyone's jumping planet. Now, it's not my nature to stick my nose in other people's business. But are you leaving too?
For now. You gonna be all right?
Better than all right. I've got a plan. This might surprise you, but I've been pushed around my whole life. No one ever took me seriously, and I can use that to my advantage. And just when the Empire lets its guard down, that's when I strike.
We've all gotta fight the Empire however we can.
That's right. I'm a Kobo local and proud of it. This is my home, and I'm gonna defend it. I'm really busy, Cal. Maybe later.
That giant piazza you sweet talk reminds me of a time when I was out on a mountain hike with my older brother. We came across a Tibity. Ever seen one?
Yeah, those are enormous.
No kidding. Beautiful specimen. Was gonna leave well enough alone. Then, all of a sudden, the Tibity snatches my brother and takes flight. I scramble up a cliffside. Didn't want to hurt the Tibity, mind you, but I had to save my brother. Threw my spear, pierced the beast straight through.
That must have been quite the throw. How'd you manage it?
What choice did I have? Brother fell, got a few scrapes. He was lucky. Wish I could have talked that Tibity down. But there are some fights you just can't avoid.
Feel free to take your time. Welcome. Take a look, you'll find the finest components and sundries this side of the Outer Rim. Now that's a Doma Dendra guarantee.
Hear that, buddy? A guarantee.
That's right, shop's built on trust and quality, and I aim to keep it that way. Oh, I can't believe Grok's gone. Did you know him, Cal?
Not very well. Did you?
I did. Our relationship was a fair bit contentious. Fool was always trying to sweet-talk me. He was incorrigible, but... Well, now that he's gone, I guess I miss him coming in. I never told him.
I know the feeling.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What a galaxy. I don't see what all the fuss is about with that droid.
I think she's talking about Z.
It's like that's all people want to talk about.
Hold on a second. Hey, Grease. Know where Kata is?
Upstairs, I think. I'm just glad she didn't find the kitchen. That kid eats like a starving rancor. I gotta pick up some more scat steaks before we head out.
No one makes him like you, Grease.
And don't you forget it.
So, it looks like we aren't the only ones who found romance on Kobo.
What, Turgle and 2 locked? I don't think that's in the stars.
Oh, now, Cal. That delightfully dark Maven has been casting wayward glances at you.
Marin? What was the look?
She's a hard one to read. You, however, couldn't be more obvious. So, what are you waiting for?
Good question. A lot going on right now.
Okay, don't get so caught up that you miss the small things. 'Cause those are the things you'll remember.
What about us, Marin?
Well,
Hold it. Let's stop here. Time to move.
Come on in, grab a spot
You
at the
around,
bar.
Cal.
Hey, Toa. You mentioned things were changing at the Academy before you left.
It started when the Empire began dumping credits into our projects. Unlimited budget to fund our research. Great, right?
But there were strings attached.
Yes. We came under constant pressure from Imperial censors to conform to their propaganda. Anyone who did not play along was pushed out in favor of stooges whose work would never stand up under peer review.
No Moff or Governor wants to publish views that question Imperial dominance.
I mean, I understand. The censors have their own careers to think of.
It's okay, Toa. You don't have to defend a corrupt system.
No, I guess not. We'll talk soon.
Cal, you've been holding out on me.
It depends. What are we talking about?
I heard there's a whole shipload of High Republic knickknacks just sitting around in those spires. You wouldn't believe the kind of credits some of these elite types will pay for that crap.
Terrain's pretty rough. Not ideal looting conditions.
Yeah, Toa was telling me all about it. Of course, she wanted to put him behind glass.
You don't trust her with them?
Don't be naive, buddy. It ain't doing anybody any good in the hands of some historian. Follow the credits. That's what I do.
Seems like you and Doma have some history.
That's right. She took me in, showed me around, hid me, because I was on the run, Cal.
On the run, huh? What'd you do?
The heist of the century. Every bounty hunter in the galaxy was after me.
You pulled off a heist?
Is that so hard to believe?
Well, yeah.
And that's how I pulled it off. No one thinks much of me around here, so they never see me coming. They never see me coming. And that's when I get them.
Biomalls like that one you took out are trouble. They'll turn a room into a patio if you're not careful.
I believe it.
Reminds me of a pest I tangled a few years back. Nothing could get through its skin, neither. Here's the kicker, though. This creature had tentacles, too. Whew, don't remember the name of it, but it was mean. I wasn't having all kinds of trouble until I remembered something my mama used to say. If your weapon can't fell a beast, make the beast your weapon. So, I drop my spear, grab one of the beast's tentacles, and coil it around his throat until it was over.
Smart.
That's what your enemies do, ain't it? Turn your strengths into liabilities.
I tell you what, that metal shark in the sky is giving me splinters from head to toe.
I'm no fan of Star Destroyers either.
Do they know the fishes need sunlight to grow ruddy and strong?
Not sure wildlife preservation is on the Empire's list of priorities.
Oh, I'll be on their list of priorities soon enough.
Easy, Scuba.
All right, all right. I'll let him off the hook for now.
It true then? Nicked that droid back from the Raiders, did you?
I don't think we met.
Oh, blast. Sorry about that. Came at you like a rock, I did. Call me hard. Been here longer than any of these greenhorns. Except Doma, and Gulu, and Guido, and old Toll, of course. But, she's... blast, there I go again. Cal, is it?
Right. This is BD.
Damn fine to meet you two. Damn fine. Hey, mate.
Oh, that Cabby, she is one cute kid.
Yeah. You ever thought about having kids?
Me?
Hold it.
Breathe. Okay, I'm ready.
Welcome, welcome. Make
Talk
yourself
later.
at home.
Cal, I've seen so many stormtroopers in the valley lately. I fear the Empire is taking control of Kobo.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You know, not long ago, I would have argued the Republic was just as flawed as the Empire in its own way. But the Empire is not the Republic. And they are not just a nuisance. They're tyrants and murderers. I'm starting to think we did not win the Clone Wars.
Just stay safe, Toa.
You too. Some other time, okay?
So how'd you become a music producer?
I was born on Ryosa, in the Inner Rim.
I've heard of it. Lots of heavy industry.
Yeah, you couldn't escape the factories, so I used to make little tunes out of the noise from them in my head.
You started early then.
And never stopped.
You seem troubled.
I just keep going through it all in my head. I lost some friends. If I'd done something differently, maybe they'd still be alive.
No. When my planet was being invaded by the Empire, I led my family to an abandoned bunker. It had shelter, provisions, a great idea, until it wasn't. It was shelled. I lost 2 brothers.
It's awful. But you don't blame yourself for leading them there.
Never. That decision was correct at the time. This is how I choose to live.
So you said you came here after a heist, huh?
That's right. I was once the most infamous outlaw in the Outer Rim.
Really?
Oh yeah. They call me the Prince of Pilfering, the Mayor of Misdemeanors, the Sultan of Stealth.
If you're so notorious, how'd you get here undetected?
I snuck into a shipping crate and lived in a aforementioned crate for a long time. A very long time. When Doma unpacked me, she thought I was trash.
Good thing she didn't throw you out.
Oh, but she did. We still laugh about it.
But that Mogu you took out had quite the stench.
Ugh, quite.
Range with your nose, my mama always said. We once had a feral canifant terrorizing the ranch, just a menace. Destroyed our barn, twice. Canifants cover their own tracks, see? Crafty buggers, practically impossible to find.
So how'd you track it?
We reversed our vaporators, pumped the air full of moisture. When it's humid, smells get a lot, well, more pungent. Was long before we caught the scent.
Clever.
Ain't it? We all got 5 senses, Cal. I figure we might as well use them.
Oh, that Cabby, she is one cute kid.
Yeah. You ever thought about having kids?
Me? With kids? No, no. I mean, well, yeah, okay. No, wait, what was the question?
I didn't think it was possible, but you're actually blushing.
Oh, no, I'm not. This isn't a normal color of my face. A very normal, typical color. I think the whole kid question is like gambling. If you're gonna bet, bet big. But if you're not feeling it, there's no shame in walking away from the table.
That's actually good fatherly advice.
You think so? Hey.
Bloody! Look at this! The tank is a bustle! A veritable fishing colony!
Think there's room for more?
Aye, but though it brings a tear to my eye, I fear we may be reaching capacity. Too many more and old Scuba won't be able to wet his flippers without slapping a fishy. I'll see you out in the wide world, laddie. The hunt continues!
Do you take requests, Ash? You can try.
Come on in, grab a spot at the bar.
Talk later,
Cal, I've been meaning to ask. With the Empire everywhere, do you think Rambler's Reach has a chance?
Reminds me of something a friend of mine once said. One of the wisest men I've known. Hope will always survive in those who continue to fight. I believe that to be true. But things are probably going to get worse before we can make them better.
Yeah. But that does not mean I'm going to let the Empire destroy Kobo's history.
And I guess there's still hope, isn't there?
We'll talk soon.
So how'd you go from making sounds on Ryosa to becoming a producer?
Well, I put together a few rough tracks, handed them out to friends, and things spread word of mouth. Started playing enough gigs to do it full time. Eventually, someone with influence caught a listen as they were passing through. They'd worked with Max Rebo, so I figured they were legit.
Max Rebo? That is legit.
Exactly. Said they could give me some gigs in the Corps. When they said Corps, I heard like Chandrila. Nah, they meant Coruscant. So that's where I went.
The Empire. So afraid of what it cannot control. Culture is our shield. But to them, it is a threat.
Like what the Empire did to the Wookiees on Kashyyyk.
So many traditions extinct. And yet, it might prove the Empire's downfall. An intelligent empire would co-opt the cultures it conquers, wielding it against their enemies. This one is rigid, obstinate. When the right threat arrives, it will be unable to adapt to it.
Hope so.
Not hope. This is known. The only question is when.
I'm getting pretty fed up. Folks treating me like a wounded bogling.
Doesn't help, does it?
Not a scrap. Not like I've never been alone, either. Practically raised myself on an orbital mining station.
What was that like?
I saw a lot. A whole lot. My heroes were the spacers who ran supply contracts. They'd drop by for a few days, cash in, usually gamble most of it away in the sabak dens. But they weren't rooted, you know? And it took me about 16 years to figure out that I wasn't rooted either. So I hopped on a tramp freighter, never looked back.
You got out. I'm glad he did.
You know, I'm glad too. I didn't get out of there. I never would have met the old man.
Say, Cal, would you like to buy my guide to Kobo?
Not really.
Good, because I haven't written it yet. But if you want to know something, I have all sorts of tips for Kobo visitors.
Like what?
Give information out for free? Come on, Cal. A frog's gotta make a living.
Garakos. They fight to the bitter end, don't they? Especially when they're injured.
Yeah, they do.
A lot of beasts are like that. I learned the hard way on a family outing once. My first time leading. Tracked a Kivaroa. Back to its nest. It was killing livestock. No other choice but to put it down. Played the approach perfectly. Found an opening. But my family was watching, so I decided to get a little bit fancy. Lost my concentration. One of its legs slams down, inches away from cracking my spine. Mama pushed it aside in the nick of time. And finished that Kivaroa no frills.
That's a close call.
Yep. Hey, you corner something, it'll do what it needs to survive. Even when you have the upper hand, never underestimate your prey.
Breeze, you should know. When my old crew worked for the Mantis, we made a few changes.
Oh, you mean how the left side of the cabin couch completely has lost its bounce? Yeah, I noticed. Come on, the seat's got no give. Cushion just limps there, like a dead Neko.
And that's from Liz. To psych herself up for a mission, she'd bounce on the couch as hard as she could. Now every time I sit on that broken cushion, it feels like Liz is still there.
Well, I was planning to replace those cushions, but maybe that can wait.
Well, lad, we've done it. A tank thrown in with the finest fish. A tale told to the utmost. An innocent young boy's eyes opened to the wide galaxy.
Something like that. What's next for you?
I've been asking myself just that. In recounting my infamous annals, I've been... something's gnawing at my innards, lad. A black notion that perhaps, just perhaps, one ye quit isn't truly dead. For Sakaritar, and for my own peace, I must know. Perhaps it'll be tomorrow. Perhaps a year from tomorrow. But I fear I must pursue my dread nemesis one last time.
I understand. Hey, if you ever need anything.
I know, lad. I know.
Hey, Cal. Good to see you.
Another time.
Hey, Cal.
How's it going?
I was just looking through the Academy's recent records. In the last few months, the headmasters have dismissed a dozen more of my colleagues. My friends. Guess the Empire got rid of them too. How can this keep happening?
I was on Kashyyyk. I saw the Empire tearing down forests and enslaving Wookiees. And you don't hear about that.
Information is their weapon. You know what? I'm going to try and get in touch with the others who were expelled. Maybe there's... I don't know, something we can do.
It's a good idea. You're probably not as alone as you think.
Hey, Cal?
Yeah?
You are not as alone as you think, either.
So how'd you like playing on Coruscant?
At first, I loved it. The Undercity's this melting pot of all these different struggles. A real vivid place, you know? After a few months of small gigs, though, I got bumped up to the popular clubs. Didn't take long for me to start hating it.
Not your scene.
It wasn't a conversation, you know? Those crowds just wanted to be able to say they'd seen the next big thing.
Sounds like you were really on the rise.
Well, my agents were ambitious. Scored me a deal that could have had me on billboards all over the Corps. But I said no.
That takes guts.
Well, so does slicing up raiders. But you gotta do what you gotta do, right?
Cal, glad you're here. There's talk of a giant piazza nesting in an animal graveyard on the far side of the valley. Figured you want to check it out.
You figured right.
Look at you. Already sounding like a local. Oh, before I forget, I heard there were a pair of newcomers over by the stone spires. I want to look for them.
I already found them. They're gonna start a holotactics table at Pyloon's.
Now we're talking. Piazza that size, well, just don't take it lightly.
I won't. Thanks, Mosey.
There aren't any Zabrak hanging out in the outpost, right?
Not that I've seen.
Huh, thank goodness. Thought I was gonna have to book it for a second there.
Are there people out to hurt you?
Only always. But I owe these Zabrak quite a few credits for, an incident I was involved in.
You get into a lot of trouble, don't you?
The less you know, the better. Trust me.
sticking around, Dana?
Of course I am. I wager Kobo's got plenty more to give. Those imps will have to drag me out of here in pieces. Ain't gonna be the same without Grok, though. They sure don't make them like that anymore, huh?
No, they don't.
Still, I'm liable to miss the next score, or a blaster muzzle in my face if I stand here whining.
Hard to find the time to mourn when you're trying to stay afloat.
Yep, you get it. Grok! Where are you, you old stump of a man? They got you good, didn't they?
Did you hear that? Sweep the area.
Sorry, old man. My day to die. You rest. I'll bury you later.